Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. I am Jen and this is Bookmarked by Jen. Today we are doing my February wrap up. February went a lot quicker than January, did it not? January felt like it was 1,000 years long. I didn't read that much in February. I only made it through 5 books, but that is okay. I feel like I got some quality books in. I am excited for a few books that I have coming up next month, but we're going to get into it obviously. But I found a book last month that is going to be in the top 10 of my 2025, and then again this month I found another book that I feel like is just going to be another book that lives rent free, and we have to talk about it more than just today. It'll be in quite a few videos, I'm sure. Anyway, let's get to it. The first book that I read was Cash by Jessica Peterson. I'd been seeing it around. I was really intrigued. I think not meaning to, and I don't know, like, you leave in the comments below if you're like this, but do you pick books and then realize that you kind of hit a trend for the month? Like, I didn't mean to do cowboy small town romance books, but I read 3 out of my 5 books were small town cowboy-esque books. Did not mean to do that. Like, this was not planned. Anyway, Cash by Jessica Peterson. I've been seeing it around. Heard great things about it. Didn't really know too much about it, but going in, so we have small town, we have cowboy, it's set in Texas, and it follows Molly and Cash. Molly is completely unlikable. She is a completely unlikable character at the beginning, and I was like, okay, great, this is setting up for great character arc, some redemption, all that. But I'm telling you, like, I was really, because all I was seeing was like 4 and 5-star reviews for this, and I was really scared that that was not going to be the case for me, because she is super unlikable. I mean, she is just the type of heroine that I don't like, and I saw where it was going, and I saw the premise and like what the author was having to do, but I just was like, oh god, I don't like her. Anyway, character development, character arc, redemption, it was all there. But I think honestly, like, the reviews, I haven't read much, but I'm saying, like, the star ratings, I think Cash all the way. He is such a cinnamon roll hero. He is, I say cinnamon, but he's still got some grit to him. Do you know what I mean? But he was like the star player for sure. He lost his parents. He has a pretty big family, an extended family, and he was taken in by Molly's father, shown the ropes of the ranch, worked his way up to become like the foreman of the ranch. He just takes care of everybody and everything, and he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And we have Molly, who just seemingly is a spoiled brat who is just out to get money because she has her own business and she wants the inheritance that she's going to get from her father. And it's just this whole big mess. But one of the stipulations to getting this money is that she needs to stay on the ranch and work it for a year. And she is trying to figure out a way to get through this, but ends up going to the ranch. That's where we see that character development and the change, and just I can't believe that I've missed this my entire life, and why can't I have the best of both worlds? My problem with this was her mother. I feel like her mom was, now, adults are adults and kids are kids, and they will be, and we always have regrets. And I think that's something that I get from this book is try not to live with regrets, and, you know, people that you might not be talking to that you probably should be talking to, are you going to regret that when you can't talk to them anymore? But I feel like from an early age, the adults should have been adults, and her mother should have been a better adult. Like, don't get butthurt because you didn't like something and then just completely assume that your daughter's not going to like it, and then taint your daughter's view of certain things. If you know, you know. I feel like that whole arc was glossed over a little bit, and I would have liked a little bit more groveling from her mom. However, I still gave this a 4 stars. I gave it a 3 stars for spice. I think it is a fabulous small town cowboy romance. Let's move on. Then I went to The History Between Us. This is by Ashley James. Another small town, another cowboy-esque, but it was an MM romance. And I'm like totally in my MM romance era again. Hit the small town, hit the cowboys for this month, and I hit some MM romance. for this month, and I'm in like the rock star era, I'm in the romance era, and apparently I'm in small town era right now. Anyways, history between us. So this is, like I said, romance, small town. It's an age gap. This is between Colt and William. Is that right? Yes, Colt and William. William is Colt's dad's best friend. He's been there his whole life. However, he's been gone for about a decade. So while Colt was still in his teen years, William moved away. He was married to a woman, and moved away. He is back now because his father's retired and he's taking over his father's practice. He is a doctor. The fun thing about this is 2 years before this, Colt and William met up outside of their small town, and they had a little bit of a really raunchy, really hot, really steamy, like for the fans type evening. And now that William is back, Colt is like, I'm gonna get me some. Cole is a little cocky. I will say, like, there were some instances with him that I was just like, dude, you're too cocky for your own good. Like, I get that you're young and everything, but like, damn, like you're cocky, especially when you're trying to hide some things and when you're cocky, you get a little too preemptive. You get a little, well, you're cocky, so you just don't think that you're gonna get caught. But the secretive with them and the little remarks that Colt gives William and the little edging that he gets to try to get William out of his comfort zone, like I really liked that, because I feel like William really needed somebody like Colt in his life. I also think that both of them had a great character development through this book. Colt is still cocky through the whole thing, but I don't know, like I feel like his cockiness warmed up to me in the end. William is just he's a great character. I loved the little moments between William and Colt and William's dad. And honestly, like I feel like this is a great toe dipper if you're looking to get into an romance. It's sweet, it's got a little bit of spice, it's got a little bit of kinkiness, secretive, it's a little taboo, but it's not over the top. I think it would be a great toe dipper. Moving on, my next book was actually our February buddy read. I will leave our live talking about that up in the card and down below. Unfortunately, Jessica was unable to attend this one because she was away doing some other business, but it was Amber, Mandy, and I. And maybe I should tell you what the book is now, and that is When Hearts Awaken by Victoria Lum. This is my first Victoria Lum book. This is an enemies to lovers. It is a little, well, I'm not going to say a little, there are triggers. There are SA triggers. It is talked about quite frequently. There is a scene, it is a past scene, but just check your triggers. This one was a little bit of a weird one for me, and I'm going to explain that, but I'm going to tell you, I did rate it a 4.5, rounded up to a 5 stars. I loved parts about it and I didn't like parts about it, but the story and the premise of the story and the story between Taylor and Charles, that is what got to the rating. But I did have some issues with certain things in the book, but ultimately it did not take away from the book for me, if that makes sense. So there are a lot of side characters in these books, and that is because I'm coming into an interconnected series, and these people have already had books or about to have books. So there's a lot of people. There's like a family tree, and it connects everybody. I did have to go back to that at some times, but again, I didn't let that take me out of the story. If I couldn't remember who somebody was, it was irrelevant to me. I just wanted to get through the story. Like, if I needed to know who it was, I would go back, but ultimately, like, it didn't matter. Like, I didn't read their story. I probably won't read their story, but I wasn't going to let that take away from Taylor and Charles. Taylor is determined to become a prima ballerina. She is in a very coveted school with amazing teachers that help their students to get to a certain part. They travel. She's always really been into, from a young age, the, oh my God, what the fuck is the ballet? They talked about it. Swan Lake. Swan Lake. I wanted to be like the Black Swan. That's a movie. Or whatever. Anyway, She's really into Swan Lake. Fell in love with it when her mother took her to the ballet at a very young age. She is wanting to dance the coveted role, but she has kind of like a blockage when it comes to dancing the white swan as opposed to the black swan. And there's this really great symmetry and like kind of subtexty story that comes along with that, because she herself doesn't view herself as the white swan. She is very dark because something dark has happened to her when she was 16 that was horrific. And not a spoiler, but I'm going to tell you, like, she was drugged. So she doesn't remember a lot of it, and that's all I will say. We do get pieces from, like, memory comes back from smells and all that type of thing. So if you get my drift. So anyway, she is very much struggling with that. She never really dealt with that trauma, and now things in her life are coming up that are kind of forcing her to deal with that trauma, and enters in Charles. Charles and her do not get along, but there is this great immense pull between these two. The chemistry between them, the banter between them, the way that Taylor is hot and cold with Charles. Like, her body is telling her that she can trust him and she wants to be with him, but her brain and the trauma that she's been through is saying, like, danger, danger, danger. What I really loved about this book was the way that the trauma was handled. I have not seen that like this in another book. A lot of times, when that kind of trauma happens, we'll like be in the middle of the recovery, or the trauma dealing therapy, or our heroine is completely dealing with it in a different way, and those ways can be BDSM or something sexual. Taylor was very much completely the opposite, and it was refreshing to watch this type of journey that she took, and the way that Charles just completely embraced her and really got her, like, really got her. My problem with there was a lot of extenuating circumstances that were coming in that just was like, I feel like they were trying to have too many stories all in one. But again, I did not let that take me out of the Taylor Charles story. Therefore, I gave it a 4.5. I gave it like a 3 for spice. Next up was hands down my favorite book of the month, and not probably, and will be in the top books of my 2025. This book has done a number on me. Another Small Town. This is my other MM romance. This is completely like swoon-worthy romance. It is an absolutely beautiful story. It is an MM version of Binding and Keeping 13, of like Johnny and Shannon love. Not like the trauma, like the backstory, but just like the love. Anyway, that is To Catch a Firefly by Emmy Sanders. This book. Where has this book been all my life? It is an amazing story. Like, even if you don't really gravitate towards MM or whatever the case may be, it's just, there are no words for this. It is a beautifully written story. So this is Ellis and Lucky. Ellis and Lucky meet when they are, what is it, like 8 or 10 years old? 10 years old. And they are immediate best friends. Lucky has been moved there by his parents and doesn't want to be in this small, very, very small town in Nebraska. He wants a remarkable life, and he wants to leave, and he wants to go just explore everything. And Ellis is just content being where he is. He doesn't speak very much. He can speak. He just doesn't speak very much. But for whatever reason, Lucky just understands him. He even understands him from looks. From a very young age, Lucky's always known that he is gay. And Ellis is just like, whatever, Lucky's gay. He's my best friend. But you get little snippets throughout these years. And then it's time for Lucky to go off and live his remarkable life while Ellis is staying put in Nebraska, taking care of his mom and dealing with Ellis things. But that does not stop their friendship at all. Lucky calls him every chance that he gets. He is a photographer for a really well-known magazine, and so he travels all over the place with the journalist. So the journalist journals about all these amazing places all over the world, and Lucky takes the pictures. And then he calls and tells Ellis all about it, and that is like just the tip of the freaking iceberg. The like unrequited love that each of these two have for one another, and the missed moments, and the friendship turned to love, turned to companionship, turned to just, I mean, it is such a beautiful story. These, I mean, like, I'm not doing it justice, but these two, I mean, like, they are going to be living rent free in my mind. The just, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I cried, I laughed, I swooned, I did all of the things. If you have read this, have you read this? What did you, oh my gosh. If you haven't, like, I immediately ordered the book. Like, I had to have the book in my possession. So, To Catch a Firefly, it's beautiful. Mm. So my last book of the month was Sing With Me by Brooke Montgomery. I was lucky enough to get an ARC for this book. This is between Delilah and Wilder. Wilder is the oldest of the Hollises. He's also, he's got a twin. And we've read Waylon's story, the, the the one previous is what I'm trying to say. So this is the last book in this series. I have to say, I think that this one is one of my favorites, if not my top favorite of this series. I really enjoyed the first book with Noah and Fisher, and then I absolutely enjoyed all the other subsequent books after it, but there was like little problems I had with each one. This one, I don't know, this one I didn't have those problems with. I just was completely captured by these two. I think the story between them was really well developed. I found myself just smiling while reading this book, laughing out loud. The banter between Wilder and Delilah was like really, like sometimes it can be campy when you're reading a book, but I didn't get that with this. Like, I felt like it was it was a very natural banter between them. Very cocky and sassy, and you could tell that these two had been friends for a really long time. It kind of reminded me of, what was it, the second book between Trip and Noah's best friend, Magnolia. They had a really strange banter, but their banter was like, that was campy to me. That was almost like we were trying to get a reaction or something like that. This was just a very natural banter between friends who become lovers, who become just more. So Delilah and Wilder have a history and have a back history. I'm not going to go into that because it's spoilers for the previous books as well. But Wilder's story, I think that Brooke Montgomery had him to the end because there was such a significant part of his story that probably needed to be told last, because you got to hear a little bit throughout the other books, especially Wilder's story or Waylon's story, because they are twins and are the closest. But they met without facing each other and had this really amazing relationship. And then, so there's like the secret identity thing, but they each, upon actually meeting each other face to face, realize who the other are, but they don't talk about it. Years pass, like 9 years pass. They've been friends, they've been kind of like frenemies kind of thing, but now, because Waylon is off with his woman, Delilah has become the Wilder corraler, babysitter, and Wilder is working on himself to better himself for reasons, again, not going to be spoiling, but he lets loose when they go to Vegas for a tournament for the rodeo, and him and Delilah end up getting wasted, like schmasted, and wake up with some wedding bands on, and they decide to give it a go. But really, it's like, he wants to give it a go because he's been in love with her for 9 years, and she wants to give it a go because she's been in love with him for basically that long. I really enjoyed them together. I really enjoyed Delilah and Wilder dealing with the issue at hand that I'm not going to spoil. Like, that is just that. I think that their friendship and the love for each other, it was that much more, because I don't know. It just meant more. I don't know. This one was one of my favorites. I ended up giving it like a 4.5, rounding up to a 5 star. Ended up giving it like a 3. Probably should round that up to like a 3.5 star for Spice, because it was just like, with the banter and the cockiness, and he's got a tongue ring. He's got rings down there. He's one of my favorites. I love him. I mean, God love him. He bettered himself, and I love him for it. Definitely recommend this one. I mean, really, I'm trying to think back on the first book, but like right now, I'm saying this was my favorite of the series, and that's it. That's all she read for February. Let me know what you read this month. Let me know if there was a favorite that stood out, like To Catch a Firefly stood out for me. I will catch you on my next video. Not quite for sure what that's going to be, because I don't have my list on me and, brain issues, but I'll see you then. But until then, happy reading. Bye.